What you do before you become a production designer is called an art director. You work for the production designer. And when you're an art director on a given set, you're sort of like the mayor of that set. You're the point of contact for all the departments, as it relates to getting their needs met for that set. So if the rigging gaffer who's laying the cables for where the lights are, or what's going to power the lights, the gaffer who's going to put his lights in, the stunt people who say we need a stunt pad here, we need this window to blow out, and the special effects people that say this thing's going to catch on fire, whatever. Like all that stuff before camera, like you get to know what everybody does, what their needs are, how to sequence them, what's going to help them tell the story better.
Hey, Christine, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We are so well. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us on the Movie Podcast today.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
We've loved this season of Loki so far. You know, how's it been for you now that it's finally being able to watch with everybody?
Well, it's really fun to hear the questions. Like I just had somebody ask me a question about like what was practical and what wasn't in the show, and I love that people are picking up on the little nuances or the fact that we even have done so much stuff in camera for both episodes, for season 1 and season 2. But yeah,
and the fact that it's getting harder and harder to tell, that's also this is really funny that's kind of what people are dealing with now.
Right? Yeah, I think people are responding to the fact that there's that Loki has a very tangible feel as a show. Like it's
definitely
there's I think that even in the time travel we tried to be very authentic, but authentic to in a very controlled way, like almost like how you would view old photographs, or how you imagine like old footage to feel. So there was a lot of consideration in keeping things in that old-timey sort of your imagination of how things were in the past.
Right. And
right?
That's what we love so much about the show. It has like this analog feel to it. And I'm curious with Loki, his looks have evolved so much throughout the MCU, from his more royal, like Asgardian armors to now he's very cool and very slick with his style. What's been the most fun part for you getting to develop his look through the series?
I'd say just trying to figure out how to make something that seems so simple retain a Loki element. And sometimes you don't have to look at the big fancy design, and sometimes it's taking things away and just realizing that it might just be like the fit or turning up the collar. And it's also just been fun to take, like you said, we're just taking some of the armor off of these characters and trying to let the costumes help the audience take an internal journey with these characters, where like you want it to still feel like it's Loki or it's Sylvie, but you want to have you don't want your eye to be attacked all the time, where you're not paying attention to what that internal process is for all these characters. Because I think this season we go through a lot of emotional arcs, as you I'm sure have seen, and kind of striking that balance with Loki and the other characters has been really, like, I guess that's that's really your job as a costume designer.
Right.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And you see that throughout the show. It's stunning.
And Tom's a very stylish gentleman, as he is.
Very handsome.
Very handsome.
Very handsome. He pulls everything off.
Absolutely. How much influence does he have in how Loki dresses?
I think his influence comes from his he has an incredible sense of his character. He knows that character inside and out, and he's so aware of his own physicality that as a designer, those give you a lot of direction. So if it's not specific direction that he's giving you, like, oh, I'd like my tie to be blue, it's still even if he doesn't, it's never that type of direction, because he's giving you so much of an outline through his knowledge of the character and his knowledge of his own physicality, if that makes sense. So once you go
it
into
does, yeah.
Absolutely.
right, you are immediately, you're steered, you can steer yourself into the right zones pretty easily.
Absolutely. And we want to definitely just wrap up here, but just quickly, do you have a favorite Loki outfit?
For Tom's
Yeah.
favorite? Gosh. I mean, I do have to say that I really did love putting him in that 70s tuxedo, just because as he can just, he can just
He sells it. He's so suave.
Very
He's
suave.
so suave. And what other actor can make those ruffles still just so much swagger and not feel goofy?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's his superpower. I think is really
That is-
superpower.
that's his
He can pull
superpower.
anything off.
He can pull anything off.
Absolutely. Christine, thank you so much for taking your time with us today on the show. We're so excited for more people to watch it and see the beautiful costumes that you've been designing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Kasra, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank
Great.
you so much for sharing your time with us today on the Movie Podcast.
My pleasure.
We have absolutely loved this season of Loki. How has it been for you so far, now getting to watch it with the worlds?
Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun to watch the reactions and the Easter egg hunts and the theories and the breakdown videos. I mean, I think Kevin Wright said this really well in one of the interviews, I think, that it's like, this is a really gratifying and fun process. The interactivity of between the filmmakers and the fans, it's really fun, and it's a big part of why we try to find cool, fun, and narratively relevant places to put Easter eggs, for example, because we like this interactivity.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot that we're going to be talking about with you very soon about that.
Yeah, for sure. And then we spoke with the director Dan DeLue, who kind of came from a VFX background. You're coming from a production designer background. How has your time in a different department on the series kind of helped you be a better director?
Oh, you know what? Well, I think the biggest, I was just talking about this. I actually think it's almost less so about the production design experience, but what you do before you become a production designer is called an art director. You work for the production designer. And when you're an art director on a given set, you're sort of like the mayor of that set. You're the point of contact for all the departments as it relates to getting their needs met for that set. So if they're the rigging gaffer who's laying the cables for where the lights are, or what's going to power the lights, the gaffer who's going to put his lights in, the stunt people who say we need a stunt pad here, we need this window to blow out, and the special effects people that say this thing's going to catch on fire, whatever. Like all that stuff before camera, like you get to know what everybody does, what their needs are, how to sequence them, what's going to help them tell the story better. And I did that job for a really long time, and I really think of it as my film school in so many ways.
Now we get to see the World's Fair recreated, not just, especially in this time period. And I'm curious for you, what was it like, that experience recreating this time period, and what are you hoping fans look out for in this? Because it is a huge sequence in this episode. It's
a lot.
Beautiful. There's a lot to look out for. What are you hoping people notice in these scenes?
Oh, I hope they see all of it, because we put so much work into every little corner of it, from what I love, the beautiful Egyptian area, to there's a camel there, to of course the Norwegian pavilion's gotten a lot of play already with the Balder statue, the Chinese pavilion that they come out of, and then of course the kind of German area where we spend a lot of time in the Hofbrau. I mean, now this episode was so fun to design. But it was challenging also because of how big the scope is. And, like when you're working on the TVA sets that play in multiple episodes, well, you have kind of more resources because you're going to use the set for more episodes. Whereas in episode 3, we have to build these huge sets, but they only play in one episode. So it becomes, the economics of that are more tricky to figure out. how much can we actually build? How big can we make this be without going any bigger than we need it to be?
Right. And what I think is such a huge accomplishment in the show, and in the MCU as a whole, but especially in this show, is like you have a character like Miss Minutes, who is an animated character, but also just blends so seamlessly into the worlds and into like a live action setting. I'm curious, what did it look like shooting with like that in mind, with knowing that you're going to be having an animated clock,
like Roger Rabbit almost.
In some sequences, especially with the lighting of it, right? It felt very warm and analog.
Sure. Well, our VFX team are brilliant, and we worked out like a really good methodology where we had sort of like this glowing light on a stick, and we would rehearse with that in place of Miss Minutes. And we also had a really talented actor who was reading the part of Miss Minutes off camera. So that's how we worked out our blocking. And sometimes usually we would shoot it without the light in, but then we would shoot a pass with the light in as well. Mostly the light was there to help us work out our blocking in rehearsals. But yeah, definitely it's a challenge, and it's a testament to how brilliant Gugu is, because she had to do so many scenes basically with the clock that wasn't there. So
yeah. That's wonderful. Kasra, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Like I said, we were loving this show, and we cannot wait to see where things go from here. So thank you so much again. We hope to talk to you again as well too.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.